Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Not to be confused with Tony Hawk's Pro Basketballer, of course. Pretty much everyone, from your brain-rot little nephew to your mother to your landlord to your dementia-ridden grandfather, will recognize that name.
I suggest starting off with the Hiroshima Snot Rocket.
Even if they don't know what a skateboard looks like or what a Tony Hawk is,
what the hell is even that?
there's no doubt they've heard of that beautiful name, and for good reason. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is one of the most iconic video game franchises ever that not only made a huge impact on the video game industry, but especially the skateboarding industry. I mean, just look at the Birdman's crib. That plank of wood sure does pay the bills. With countless kids seeing Tony Hawk do a 900 over a ramp, thinking, oh, I want to do that, get a skateboard, and then fracturing their spine in 50 separate places. But don't worry, I'm pretty sure the Wii will help you out there. With this series' mix of amazing combo-fueled gameplay that turns your brain into a dopamine paradise, physics that, well, just work, fantastic levels, engaging modes,
You backstabbing, mob flipping cockroach.
Hey!
and a good deal of faithfulness to skateboarding culture appeal greatly to not only the general gaming masses, but skateboarders as well,
My ex-girlfriend was literally crazy.
leaving a cultural footprint that's still there to this very day, popularizing skateboarding into a billion-dollar industry while also keeping the pitchfork-raising skateboarder audience who will banish you into the shadow realm if you do one Mongo push relatively happy. I mean, is it really a skateboarding game without the classic independent hardcore skateboarding company Nokia?
You did it, kid! Oh, listen to this sweet, sweet music!
The impact that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater had cannot be understated, and frankly, I can't imagine a world without it. But there once was a world without Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, before there was millions of fractured spines, before there was a PlayStation, before baggy pants, before all you guys even watching this video were even a concept. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was straight up non-existent. Meaning there were no combos, no ice cream headache, no Eric Sparrow, and no Bob Burnquist getting hit in the balls. Humans were in the Stone Age back then, suffering because of it. Famines were happening, stock markets were crashing, and people had to drink sewer water. The world was a very depressing place, and people were practically starving for that Tony Hawk Hawk. But that didn't mean there were any skateboarding games. No. There were people out there trying to cook us a 5-star meal or two. Over the course of the years before 1999, there were many skateboarding games that came out that are now largely forgotten because of, well, you know. But that's made me even more interested in them, curious you might say. In this video, I want to see what the skateboarding genre is like pre-Tony Hawk, to see what the genre was like as a baby, and how Pro Skater came and made it a man. Also, I'm going to exclude games that merely feature skateboarding, but don't make it the main focus, so no California games on here, unfortunately.
Grommet this, grommet that. The fuck does grommet mean?
So, we're going to take it all the way back to the 1980s. Alright, so it's the 1980s, right? Everything was fucking cool and rad. The blood pressure from all the cocaine was going through the roof. America was nuking communists.
Which message will resonate with voters? Let's talk better mileage. Go the bastards.
Everything had a fucking synth. And there was like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, you know, they were doing cool ass shit. They were ripped as hell. Everything was covered in neon, and like everyone had like they had those cool ass guns, the cool ass cars, the hair. Oh god, the hair. The music was fucking sick, and like there was Transformers too. I mean, god, the 80s was so cool. And one of the most radically rad things from the 80s was skateboarding. Skateboarding had only been birthed 3 decades prior, but it evolved significantly over the course of the 70s and especially the 80s in terms of being an art form and a sport. Its popularity was made more prominent with Back to the Future, featuring Marty McFly riding on a skateboard, and the movie Thrashin', starring the Thanos guy.
I have to break your neck. It's just the way it is. I'm just a messenger.
From your little brother to the cocaine-fueled Miami mobster doing 50 hits in a day,
Yes.
to even Michael Jackson, everyone had started to take notice, including video game companies. Another thing that was doing hot in the 80s was video games. The video game industry was even more recent than skateboarding, having only been birthed a decade prior thanks to Pong, but still had equal popularity thanks to the rise of arcade machines where anyone could play a vast library of fun and addicting games like Space Invaders and Pac-Man, by inserting quarters that you have to insert again if you wanted to play a second time to get that ultimate high score.
I thought, wow, I achieved perfection.
Are you sure about that?
And even make some real-life friends along the way. Unlike now, where gamers having real-life friends is like Elon Musk having a functioning brain.
Fucking pronouns!
In the 80s, arcade places were the place to be, and as a result, the video game industry skyrocketed in sales. But there was one bump in the road that led to a very horrific crash. Due to inflating costs and an overload of games that were, in the angry video game nerds' words,
Ass!
people were starting to get sick of video games and stay the fuck away from them like they were a Redditor shopping for Funko Pops, with the industry losing more money than Boss Man Jack.
I just lost
$25 million.
But then a certain Italian plumber came into our houses in 1985 with his NES, and not only fixed up the clogging toilets, but also the video game industry as a whole. Video games were popular again, and Atari, one of the biggest developers in the industry, had to capitalize on it. They had lost a shitload of money during the crash and desperately needed Mr. Beast's help, but that was when they came up with a genius idea. What if we combined skateboarding, a pretty popular sport at the moment, and video games, which are also pretty popular at the moment, and make a skateboarding video game? It was a billion-dollar idea at the time, so Atari Games gathered up a team, cooked in the kitchen for a bit, and released the very first skateboarding video game in 1986 to arcades, 720. In 720, you skate as a mummified Caillou in a supposed suburban neighborhood called Skate City. That's what the Wikipedia article says anyway. I mean, this is probably what American suburbs will look like 10 years from now, so if that was what the devs intended, they're fucking prophets. All it's missing is a 20,000 feet Walmart full of screaming Karens. You have to enter each event with tickets that you get by earning a certain amount of points, and they're rated by a bronze and gold system, kinda like Tony Hawk's Project 8, and you earn more points if you get a silver or gold ranking. But if you want to get gold across all events in each class, then you have to upgrade your gear.
What the hell?
That's right, this nearly 40-year-old game has an upgrade and equipment system, years before Ubisoft ran that shit into the ground. With the 4 of them being upgradable shoes, which make you faster and higher. No, not that high. Upgradable boards kinda does the same thing as shoes, except it raises your top speed, of whatever that means. Pads, which allow you to get up quicker from mailing, and finally, helmets.
I love helmets!
Which help you spin faster, potentially hitting the ultimate trick, the 720. Yeah, this is for people who are doing whatever this is casually. And yeah, that's pretty much 720. Just go to events, score tricks, get points, and buy upgrades with your money. Just not real money. This is like, what, 30 years before that? And honestly, it was kind of ahead of its time, and especially impressive for the first skateboarding game ever made.
All this stuff, and I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, man, I was the first
Skateboarding game ever made.
While it is relatively simple compared to today's games, there's no 4K Peach Fuzz. No other mainstream arcade game had this much depth put into it. It was mostly just mindlessly shooting at stuff till you got 10 trillion points. Nah, you had to think about how you're gonna get those points and how to earn money to get all those sweet upgrades, being the closest thing gamers could have to a responsibility outside of that one minigame from Sonic Adventure 2. This in-depth yet addicting approach to gameplay was what made 720 a massive success, causing loads of people to file for bankruptcy trying to get those 100,000 points. But how is the gameplay itself? Has it stood the test of time amidst all the hawks? Well, sort of, I think. I'm not really sure. It's fucking like, what, 100,000 years old? 720 has a rather unique arcade control scheme where instead of shifting the stick left and right like most games at the time, you instead shift it in circles. Like a real stick, if you know what I mean.
You better start laughing right fucking now.
While you push your board button.
Well, I'm convinced there was some kind of miscalculation that caused an unexpected incident with the bridge. Really?
What a fucking... The game also has a vast library of tricks like the boneless and the boneless. Yeah, there's only one trick in this game, and that's the boneless. It's called jumping in the game, but I ain't no stupid loser normie who wears Thrasher shirts and beanies. I know what this trick is called. Get your backs right, posers!
You're a poser. I am Wade.
This circular control scheme takes some time getting used to for a brain-rotted little zoomer like me, but once you get it down, the game can be a bit of a fun time. I might be a bit kinky though, as this game absolutely crushes your balls.
No, seriously, I do not have a 10-inch penis. No, I do not. Seriously.
As I stated before, it's tough to get points in this game because it punishes you for spamming the jump button over and over. You can get more points if you do tricks in park areas, but those can be a little slippery. But what's even tougher is getting points for the events, as you can only barely get gold in certain events like ramp, and silver doesn't really give you enough points to survive in the next class, as again, you have to get a certain amount of points to get a ticket, and they'll soon be the price of a Taylor Swift ticket, meaning that by the second class, you'll be spamming the jump button over and over like crazy until the Barry B. Benson gang drops in and gets that victory royale.
How about a suicide pact?
Of course, you can get the upgrades, but then again, there's a time limit, they cost money, and the upgrade shops are really far apart, meaning that you probably won't survive the next horrific Barry B. Benson attack by the time you're trying on your new Jordans. There are things that you can do to increase your score, like jumping over hazards and knocking over pedestrians, but another problem with that is that the controls can be really finicky at times, especially with how the skater spins, making him look like a damn Beyblade.
I'm a Beyblade.
Making it hard to see where you can land, and most of the time you'll just be eating dirt doing it. Unless you like it though, but I'm not judging. 720 is a really tough game, and unless you know all the strats and guides to a nearly 40-year-old arcade game, because you really can't stop thinking about your long-lost childhood and long-lost hair, there's no way you'll be making it to the second class alive. But despite its toughness and jankiness, it's still an arcade classic, and one that established a whole genre by, well, having a plank of wood on 4 wheels I can ride on as a premise, and being pretty good all around.
That's pretty good.
The game received a glowing critical and commercial response, and is still highly regarded as one of the best arcade games of its era.
720.
But what about 720's non-arcade ports? Did they hold up to the arcade version's innovative majesty in the family home? Not quite. With 720's success, naturally came in some home console ports, with the first 2 of them, being for the Commodore 64 and 87. There are actually 2 different versions for the C64 version, the US version and the UK version. I'm going to cover the US version first, developed by Tengen and published by Mindscape, because I gotta stay loyal to my beautiful home country of America! But this version, however, it makes me question that loyalty. This is probably the worst way to play 720, because this shit is actually unplayable, and that's due to the dogshit keyboard controls. I don't know if the controls is an emulation issue, or if it's actually how this version controlled, but if it's the latter, then Tengen should have been shut down for what they cooked here. It's just really janky and confusing to navigate in this version, as it feels like everything has been mirrored to screw you over, making some events like downhill almost impossible to complete without some perseverance, which you'll need a lot of. I don't even know if the joystick controls even work, because this version is as underground as Saddam Hussein, and the only videos I can find of it was this guy who sounds really special, and I don't mean in the 900 type of way.
Area is a little bit bigger, the actual map is bigger, and if we manage to center ourselves on the map icon and press fire, that will load the map from the disk, and you can see things are pretty similar. Unfortunately,
I love dykes! Dykes! China!
Other than that, there's not much to this version other than, of course, worse graphics and a worse scoring system, as it only scores you on spins, as both spins and jumps, and you can keep spamming spins as long as you like, as this version never decreases your score regardless of how many times you do them. Not like you can anyway, because spinning in this one sucks balls too. So yeah, this version of the game absolutely fails, and if you want to get into 720, stay away from this version as far as you can.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
But what about the other Commodore 64 version, the one in the UK? Well, it's better, but not by much. Developed by Tiertex and published by US Gold, a British company.
That is, I would call that false advertising.
This version has a way better control scheme than the US version, as it moves more like the arcade version's circular controls, using the arrow keys instead to move, which is significantly more comfortable than fucking I and P. No disrespect to I and P, but come on now. But there's one catch to this. The skater must have been engulfed in oil, because he is slippery as fuck here. This version takes the arcade version's slight slipperiness and takes it tenfold here. It's even worse in the downhill event, like most of my footage just consists of the skater doing a Geronimo contest like he's Drake at a kid's pool party. It's all just splash, 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 splash! The ramp event is also completely borked here, as it emulates the arcade version's camera, but the graphics are so shit that you can't even see your skater clearly, who now looks like a short-haired Hulk Hogan for some reason, resulting in a lot of fails, or the music stops for a brief moment, or forever.
Let's make a little noise here, huh?
You'll kinda get the hang of it eventually, and I did get a silver medal for downhill, but it still can bite you in the ass a lot of times, especially if you're going for that gold run.
You know why? Because it'll never happen!
As a result of these issues, it prevents this version of the game from being good, but it's still better than the mess that was the US version. So, good job, Brits. You're responsible for something half decent for once. Other than Top Gear, of course. I mean, that shit is just peak.
Who's this? Why, it's Osama bin Laden!
Then there's the NES version, also published by Mindscape, meaning that's almost the same as their Commodore 64 version, except there's one big difference. The controls here are actually decent. Thanks to the simplicity of the NES controller, the controls here is much less of a mindfuck. But other than that, there's not much of this version. It's pretty much Mindscape's C64 version with a few minor differences. Hell, it even has that chopping board looking skateboard too. And some 8-bit titties as well. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. And finally, the Game Boy Color version, which was released 13 years later, like months before Tony Hawk's Pro Skater hit the shelves, and you can definitely tell the time difference by looking at their covers. Yeah! Which is a bit odd. Why didn't they release it on the OG Game Boy, you know, around the time 720 was new? But anyway, this version was published by Midway Games
and developed by Digital Eclipse.
And it's actually an extremely faithful port to the arcade version. It's got the same layout, the same events, the same menus, hell, even the same voice clips. Only it's freaking scuffed as shit. Like the entirety of Shrek 2 being uploaded on 2006 YouTube on like 140p quality. This is definitely the worst looking version by far, and you might say, well, it's a Game Boy Color, of course. It wasn't going to have the best graphics. Look at Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color. They look 20 times better than this utter monstrosity. Everything looks like an old McDonald's commercial ran through a Nokia. Wait, is that Ninja?
Send me your dick pics, okay?
The animations as well are scuffed and therefore suffer the same problem as Commodore versions, as it looks so scuffed that you can't even tell what you're even doing most of the time. Also, you can't spin in this version for some reason. Like, could the Game Boy Color not handle any spinning whatsoever? Overall, the Game Boy Color version is just a scuffed version of the arcade game, which might have been helpful in '99, but with arcade emulators existing now, there's no need to play this anymore. So yeah, that was 720 and its ports, and despite the port's subpar quality, the arcade version was still a resounding success that birthed an entire long-lasting genre, which it still holds up today, honestly. Changing society forever, solving world hunger, and bringing John Lennon back from the dead. Oh no. So obviously with this success, home console manufacturers, publishers, devs, your grandma wanted a piece of that radical pie, and one of those publishers was Activision.
You're right. Rape is not an excuse. It's a reason. And tonight, everything seems so reasonable.
That's right, before they killed the skateboarding genre with all these games, before they were a continuous city party, they were trying to milk the skateboarding genre dry barely after it was born.
Got me twist.
But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt for this one. So with Absolute Entertainment and designer David Crane, who's actually the co-founder for Activision by the way, this guy must feel like Oppenheimer. They developed the very first home console skateboarding video game, Skateboarding. Or did they? You see, there's another early skateboarding home console game released the same year as 720 that's often swept under the rug. So under the rug that it doesn't even have a Wikipedia article. I mean, come on, even the man behind David Crane's Amazing Tennis has one. What's your excuse, Wikipedia? The game in question is Awesome Earl and Skate Rock. With a title like that, this game has to be fucking awesome, right? Well, not quite. Skate Rock is an arcade side-scroller where you control Awesome Earl in 4 different types of locations. The suburbs, city streets, the suburbs, again, just with more obstacles, and a fucking construction bridge like you're trying to make it into a Red Bull video. There's 10 courses you can do in the game, and in these 10 courses you skate around and collect flags to complete them along with getting high scores. And that's pretty much what this game has to offer. It's the most basic 80s side-scroller arcade game, like so basic that it makes Father of All look complex. It can be fun, it controls well, but there's nothing you can really engage in unlike 720. If you told me that this was the first skateboarding game ever, then I would have believed you, cause this is as primitive as a blind caveman.
Why does it smell like caca and wee-whiz in here?
It's a very basic, very forgettable skateboarding game, and I can see why no one really talks about it, cause it's as basic as a Taylor Swift fan, which is a bit unlike the aforementioned Skateboarding, the second home console skateboarding game that existed. According to the manual, you play as a radical skateboarding kid who's late for school, but there's been a set of ramps and big-ass pipes mysteriously placed on the streets, and if the skater doesn't hit them all in time, you'll be considered a total nerd and get sent to the 6th circle of hell. So that's pretty much all you do in this game. You hit up ramps, go through pipes, all 30 of them, while you're of course on the clock to get to school on time. But this game does quite a few interesting things, actually. Firstly, you can actually walk in this game.
Now that's what this is all about.
So we've evolved from blind cavemen to just a caveman in the middle of evolution, cause golly, look at those soggy, spaghetti-looking ass legs. Looking like he was bullied for being a nerd a little too much. Secondly, there's an open world you can explore in this game, not just a small town or a compilation of side-scrolling levels. No, but a full-on beautiful and detailed world. So that means that GTA is actually a skateboarding clone. Ha! Take that, game journalist who's called every single game where you can steal cars GTA clones.
Exaggerated swagger.
But there are some problems with it. Mostly all of it looks the same, especially in the upper areas near the street, so you'll get lost pretty fucking quick trying to find all the ramps and pipes. And this becomes a major issue because since all of it looks the same, you'll accidentally hit up ramps and pipes you already hit up. and there's just a ton of dead space too where there's absolutely nothing. So you'll enter a loop of areas you may or may not have been in until the timer runs out. Also, going through the pipes is pretty hard, because in order to crouch in this game, you have to jump first, then hold down the fire button. And since there's barely enough space to perform this action, you'll be knocking into pipes more than your mother.
Yo, mom is so
But aside from that, there's nothing much to this game. You just go around jumping off ramps, hitting pipes, hit all of them, and you can skate to your school to win. All you win is having to see your skater do a Fortnite dance. This game would also end up being ignored since it was released for the Atari 2600 in 1987.
Was that the bite of 87?
Like 10 years after the console released. You know, the console that almost killed the industry, only for Nintendo to bring it back 2 years earlier with the NES. Hell, the Atari 78,000 came out just a year before this game, so this game kind of flopped on release. It didn't even look good back then. So Activision realized that the Atari 2600 was getting a little old, and they needed to switch gears with the 7800. So they released Super Skateboarding in 1988. Now you'd think that this game is just an enhanced version of the 2600 game. Well, you must be a total nerd then, because this is actually a sequel. In this Skateboarding, you work at your dad's factory as an after-school job. So now you're doing child labor, and you have to turn off many of the factory's machines as you can, so that he has all the energy to scream at his TV watching a football game with all of his mug root beer. But luckily, you played that one level from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and recognized that this factory has some sick skateboarding potential. So instead of doing it the nerd way of simply walking in it, you skateboard in it, like a true pro skater Chad. Being inside a factory, this game is smaller than the first game, despite the new hardware, as you mostly skate through hallways switching off machinery, with the exception of a roof, where you can kill yourself due to the suffocating struggles of child labor. The way you navigate this time around is through tubes, like your sperm. Damn, we're getting real obsessed with all these navigation points, are we? And these tubes can be a real mindfuck to explore, especially in the lower floors, where, just like the first game, everything looks the same despite the enhanced graphics. So you'll still accidentally enter a loop of the same room over and over until you enter lobotomy mode. While it is pretty different than the first game, Super Skateboarding still shares the same problems of it, just bleh gameplay that features even less to do than the first game, where all you do is just switch off machinery. If I wanted to have fun switching off machinery, then I would just assassinate Mark Zuckerberg by giving him commands to jump out a window. This game would have even less traction than the first game, as the Atari 78,000 wound up being a flop, selling only 1 million units compared to Nintendo's 61 million. So with that, the Skateboarding series would end up being in forgotten game purgatory, only fondly remembered by sweaty, divorced, balding 50-year-olds with dirty cans of Coors and cherry-flavored vapes as their main diet. But that wouldn't mean the party would stop for skateboarding games, as there would be another skateboarding game on the block, Skate or Die. I mean, you can always do both. This game was developed by a young, innocent Electronic Arts before their gambling addictions consumed them. Skate or Die came out in '87 on Commodore 64 and later MS-DOS in the NES, the latter of which is the version I played, cause it's extremely hard to find a working C64 version. Like, I scoured through the most virus-affected, unsecured 2003 websites to find it, and still nothing.
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
And even if I did, the controls are weird as hell anyway, so I just went with the NES version for convenience sake. Anyway, the game starts off with this guy running the skate shop, where he can pick 2 modes: practice,
we talking about practice,
and compete, where you first have to sign up to EA Origin to pick it with ass approval. These 2 modes are practically identical, just with the only difference being that you can earn scores in one of them, and the other, you cannot. Either way, you head out the skate shop to do 5 different events in 3 challenge zones. The first being freestyle in the ramp zone, which is basically the ramp event from 720, the high jump where you jump at a certain height that is quite tall, and let me tell you, you'll be mashing the A button like a $1 per hour maid with potatoes. Like by the end of this, your thumb will go from Joe Rogan to Vsauce.
So if a baby dies, it's like,
What?
yeah. Or if you have too many kids, you can just kill them because they're just like
What
animals.
the fuck are you talking?
Then there's downhill with 2 events. Race, which is just the downhill event from 720, just a lot clunkier, and Jam, which is an actual race with an opponent. And finally, there's Pool with only 1 event, Jousting, and this event is absolute ass to play. First off, it looks terrible. Why does the pool look like cocaine-covered grip tape? But that's not even the worst of it. It's these slippery-ass Looney Tunes controls. It's a general problem with the game where you move with Resident Evil 1 tank controls, which is just really awkward as your guy is also as slippery as a Woodstock festival. But it's the worst here, because you just overshoot your op most of the time, and the perspective does not help, as it's really hard to tell if you're going to hit him or not. You think it might hit him, but nah, you're gonna get your ass cooked by the T-1000 AI. These mother knuckers are unforgiving towards you, as they always seem to predict where you're gonna go, and again, due to the perspective, it's hard to tell if you're even near the guy. So 90% of the time, you're going to be a sore loser, as if you already aren't one, that is. Then there's a 6th option where you can compete in all the events to get that radical high score. If you're able to win the jousting event, that is. There's a lesser chance of you doing that than there is of EA dropping support for Sims 4. Overall, Skate or Die is basically a much more simplified version of 720. It can be fun, but it doesn't really offer anything of actual substance or originality. It was just your standard open-ended skateboarding game of the time, and it was pretty successful, especially on the NES. So EA decided, hey, let's make a squeakquel! The original game wasn't very original, so we gotta do something fresh, something unique. I got it! How about we make it a story-based adventure game? Okay. And that's how we ended up with this pile of shit. Skate or Die 2. The Search for Double Trouble.
You're in trouble! Oh, my mama's gonna whoop me! Shut, bonehead!
Skate or Die 2 is a completely different game than the first game, as it's an adventure game this time around, rather than your traditional extreme sports game of, you know, skateboarding. Meaning we now have a story mode. This is the first skating game to have an actual story and plot, 13 years before the Tony Hawk series adapted it with Underground 1.
What's your problem, Bacon Bits? Wake up on the wrong side of your mother this morning?
So how is it? Isn't it an absolute masterpiece of a story that would rival the likes of David Cage? Well, it's only marginally better. The game starts off on a beautiful morning in the town of Elwood, the most Disney Channel-ass name for a town. The mayor's wife is having a casual stroll with her poodle dog, while you, the supposed hero, is skating casually when he runs into his bully, Vin Diesel. While telling him to back off, he runs into the mayor's wife and, fucking kills her dog. It's not stated in the game or manual that the dog is dead, but come on, that dog is as dead as fried chicken. The mayor's wife goes crazy over it, and instead of simply, you know, putting this guy in jail, she instead asks her husband to ban skateboarding entirely. This plotline doesn't actually mean anything though, as Rodney, the shop owner from the first game, tells us to skate the streets anyway and simply get stuff. Why? What stuff are we nabbing? Who the fuck knows? Just get out there and die. And you'll be dying a lot. The hero gets dropped off in the Elwood streets as we get introduced to how this game plays, and boy is it dog shit. First, the controls. It shares the same slippery, slow controls and physics from the first game, but it's even worse somehow here. It's hard to get even a lick of speed in this game, even with the boards that Ronnie gives you. It's as sluggish and slow as a Goldberg vs. Undertaker. And it gets even worse, as every single fucking thing in the entire universe is trying to kill you! The hero might not be the hero we all thought he was, cause he sure has a lot of ops trying to send him to the Shadow Realm. The surrounding skaters constantly shoot paintballs, these things, and even throw dynamite at you. What is this, Chicago? But that's not all. No. Not only are there terrorist skaters, but also dogs too that for the life of me, I cannot defeat. Like, I have never wanted to kill dogs this much, if ever. Except for the old Modern Warfare games. I mean, those scared the shit out of me. And these mongrels are relentless. You can't escape them. Even if you go to the deepest part of the Earth's core, they'll find you and bite down on your balls. Then there are the obstacles. If you even so slightly touch a pillar, you bail and lose a life point. Again, and again, and a friggin' again. These things are everywhere, and since the physics and movement is so slow and sluggish, you'll avoid them only, 40% of the time, making navigating levels the equivalent of stepping on a landmine of Legos. Also, did I mention that this game had a health system?
Cowards die 1,000 deaths. Well, heroes die but once. Unless they're playing video games, in which case heroes die a lot too.
That's right, unlike most skateboarding games where failing would only give you a minor scratch or two, everything that moves gives you at least 28 stab wounds. Meaning that you'll lose health points mighty quick. You can restore these health points by yawing on these clocks, but they're pretty scattered, so you'll just be cooked well done most of the time. And this is only the first fucking level.
There's more. No.
You can try to prevent all of this with a few things. Your paintball gun, which can help get rid of enemies, but it's pretty much coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb, as these guys will still spawn from everywhere from your mother's house, so why bother using it? There's Ronnie and Bionic Lester, who's actually Ronnie's son for all you fake Scare Die fans. The former gives you new boards that can perform slightly better with jumps and speed. The latter will definitely help you in later stages, but it's still pretty much a losing battle. Then there's Lester, who gives you new tricks to perform, but the thing is, you can barely do any actual skateboarding tricks in this game. There's like 3 of them, and they're all pretty useless. There's a 180 ollie that does a 180 ollie. Wow! A 180 kick turn, which helps you turn around really fast, which shouldn't even be something you have to unlock. Like, that's something the game should already have. And skid stop, which just makes you stop quicker, I guess. Why would I ever do that when I have a bajillion guys coming at my ass? There was also a 720 kick turn that supposedly kills bad guys dead, so you are just really killing people in this level, but I never got it. You can pay for these things via the most efficient currency, that is, tacos, tapes, CDs, and fries. Truly a crackhead economy. But what the fuck are we supposed to do in this level? Well, what you're meant to do is go inside this random warehouse, see the mayor's wife, who, for some reason, is inside this grungy warehouse throwing things at walls like a rage gamer. Now, what do you do here? Explain to her that banning skateboarding is wrong and ignores the rules of the Constitution? Or fucking kill her? I'm starting to think our guy isn't quite heroic. And that's how you complete the level! We now have a body count that rivals the likes of Perk Angle. Anyway, we move on to the next cutscene where the hero finds out that his local half-pipe is getting demolished via the order of the mayor due to it having no building permits. Who should really give him a life sentence for killing his wife, but who knows, it might have been a favor for him. Also, this means that the whole skateboard banning plotline is just completely forgotten now, so yeah. Anyway, the guy who's managing the demolition sarcastically suggests that the hero should get a job to get some money for the permits. However, the sarcasm flies over the hero's head like he's a Twitter user, and he decides to get some advice from his girlfriend, CJ, who definitely isn't Ariel. Shut up, Disney. She suggests to him to get a delivery job from a man named Mr. Jenkins at the mall, leading to the second level of the game where we have to deliver packages to mall stores. Hell yeah, man. Nothing screams skateboarding rebellion than delivering packages in a mall. This level is equally as bad as the first level, with the new enemies this time being these bowling pin shoppers that are definitely trying to crash into you. These motherfuckers even form blockades to try and stop you, and even if you paintball them a couple times, you can still bail from them even if you're on the ground dead.
They're dead.
Meaning you have to wait a couple seconds for their animation to finish so that you can even skate safely. for like 5 seconds. The skaters are back, and they're even more aggressive than ever somehow. Like this guy who machine gunned my ass with paintball pellets. Like, Jesus Christ, did I murder your dog or something? Because you already should have known that I'm not kind to dogs.
Yeah, we are absolutely cooked, chat. GG.
Then there's a cop who acts like you're a black man with a broken taillight. The thing about this guy is that if you run into him more than once, he'll beat your ass and make you lose significant amount of time. That's right, there's a time limit in this level for deliveries, and if you show up late too many times, the level will be over. Luckily, you can retry the level a couple times, so the game does have a little bit of mercy on you before it slaps the crap out of you. This adds a whole nother layer of shit onto this hellscape though, and unlike the previous level, there's no Rodney or Lester. So if you didn't upgrade your board, then good fucking luck. This level just blows, man. The goal itself is really boring and a slog to complete. The layout of the mall can be also confusing and hard to remember. Basically skateboarding all over again, just even worse somehow. It's just one terrible level that regurgitates the same fatal flaws of the previous level, with even more flaws like the timer. This delivery job must pay really well, because there's no way a normal person is surviving all of this. Now, the first 2 levels, they were really bad, but they weren't utter nightmares of horror that haunts you in your sleep. Unlike the last 2 levels, where any sense of logic, design, and taste goes straight out the window, and what might be the worst set of levels I have ever played in a video game, ever. So, the 3rd level starts off with the hero entering Ronnie's room, where he's busy writing down some plans for the ramp. Ronnie then asks him to turn on the light to show off very cool features, only for the hero to accidentally turn on the light that, turns on the fan? What? I'm not even going to explain why that makes no sense. So, we get dropped off on the beach where we have to get back the plan papers. This level is so shit that it beats out a Taco Bell toilet. First off, the seagulls. You're in a war with the seals that rivals the emu war, both resulting in the same outcome. These motherfuckers bring an entire army on you, depleting your health faster than the amount of time between Concord being alive and dead. They'll swoop down and try to eat your face off, often in teams, leading to seagull beatdowns that are as vicious as Steven Seagal fights. You know, if he could fight at all. Mother Nature in this game is basically out there to make sure you never breathe out of your lungs ever again. But it's not only Mother Nature that's trying to end you, even the elements are ops. Cause since this is a beach level in a skating game, the sand is lava. And this isn't just sand outside the level, no. They're in the level, meaning if you so touch a single grain of sand, boom, you're dead. And you will bail constantly because of this. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, why is sand just, like, why does sand exist? The way the level is designed is abysmal as well. It's really dense and not in a good way. There's these slopes that are everywhere, which becomes a massive problem because, again, the game's physics are Joe Biden levels of slow and stiff. It becomes the equivalent of skating in quicksand running up these slopes. That, along with the seagulls, the roller skating girls, the crabs who must be infected with the Carnage symbiote, the flexing Instagram dudes, makes it one absolute hellscape of a level where it does not feel relaxing at all. But what makes this dogshit level even more bafflingly awful are the papers. They don't simply lay there. No. Why would we give you solace? This is Skater Die 2, bitch! Where you would rather do the latter part of our title. You thought that sand was your only elemental enemy? Well, there's more than one element screwing you over. The wind! The wind makes the papers float away anywhere. You can approach one paper thinking that you'll get it, only for that paper to float away and land on the fucking sand! Meaning you have to clumsily skate around this poorly designed level while battling waves of things and people that absolutely hate your guts. Like, oh my god, this... What world does this game take place in? Fuck this level, man. I now forever hate seagulls now because of this godforsaken level. And sand. And sand too. I'm afraid of sand now. But oh, you thought that level was the king of awful? Well, there's a new level that dethrones it. The final boss of awful skateboarding levels. the warehouse. No, not that warehouse. That one's actually good. This warehouse. Or at least what I think is a warehouse. It looks more like something from the movie Cube. After the beach level, CJ finally gets the permits at the City Planning Commission. Somehow, I don't even fucking care anymore. And at last, the half-pipe ramp can finally be built. But, uh-oh, Vin Diesel shows up with his family and demands CJ, shut up Disney, to hand over the permits. She of course refuses and hits him with a paintball pellet. I hope that's a paintball pellet. I don't imagine what else that could be. This angers Vin and his family, and they kidnap CJ, steal the permits, and decide to hang out on the top of this random warehouse for some reason. Given this interview, I would not let Vin be alone for, I'm just saying.
When did this turn into Beautiful World?
The hero somehow finds out about this and where they're at, and decides to rescue CJ and the permits. It's
rescue time!
Thus beginning what might be the worst level I've ever played in a skateboarding game ever.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
What makes this level so shit, you say? Well, it's a maze level. A very, very, very confusing and very, very, very long one. And I mean, it is a long one. Like half of this speedrunning video is just this level alone, and it sucks so hard that it can swallow the entirety of Texas. So, the level is a maze, right? But you would think that it would follow a basic going up an elevator type structure, right? Filled with hints, clues, you know, stuff like that. Well, the game says, fuck that, and trolls you by having multiple elevators on the same floor that look the same and lead you to floors that also look the same, but they're not the same floor because the layout is different, so you get really confused as you mistakenly enter floors and rooms you already entered because all of it looks the same. My brain is just combusting right now. There are no hints or clear paths to tell you where you're supposed to go. You'll practically have to look up a walkthrough to find out where in the goddamn hell you're supposed to be going. But hey, Adam, this level ain't that hard, right? All you have to do is just go through a bunch of doorways and find where CJ and the permits are, right?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Yep, there are enemies too you have to face, often having 3 or 4 of them in the same room. So not only do you have to navigate a bunch of near identical floors with terrible spawn points, but you also have to deal with these fuckers. Isn't this game rad? Isn't this game cool? Aren't you having fun? Aren't you having fun? What kind of sick monster would make this soul-crushing abomination of a game and market it towards Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Surprise mechanics.
I could not beat this level at all, and since if you die enough times in the level after the first level, you get booted all the way back to that very first level, I just gave up and looked up the ending on YouTube. Once you somehow get up to where Vin Diesel is at, you engage in a boss battle that I definitely would have failed over and over because god this looks janky, but once you finally defeat him, it's over! You rescue CJ, get the permits, and finally build the half-pipe ramp that you've been oh so desperately wanting to build. The end. As a reward, you get to skate the ramp and oh wait, you can just play this section without ever playing the story, thus making all this pain and suffering completely pointless? Great job, EA. I never want to play this trash ever again. Skate or Die 2, The Search for Double Trouble, might be one of, if not the worst skating game I have ever played. Yes, even worse than Pro Skater 5, Pro Skater HD, all those god-awful Pro Skater ripoffs. It's worse than all of those. If you played this back in the day without any guides and beated it, you deserve a goddamn Nobel Prize. I have never played a skating game that controls this terribly, a plot this terribly written, levels so bad it makes Sonic 06 look like peak level design, and a difficulty curve that goes so over the edge that no rage game developer could ever possibly reach it. It's just a game that you should stay far, far, far away from. The only positive I can say about this game is that the music is pretty good, but it's not enough to extinguish this dumpster fire. I'd rather be the guy on the cover instead, doing a radical trick that'll most likely lead to my death. This game would be so bad that it would straight up kill the entire skateboarding industry, as starting in the early 90s, any mainstream status that skateboarding had was dead in the water, and it would go into a very underground period. Even most famous skaters from that period, including Tony Hawk, well, they went broke as a result of the recession the industry had, and had to edit friggin' videos just to get by, just like my loser YouTube ass. So everyone outside the skateboarding industry, the film, TV, shopping, milk, and most importantly, video game industry, closed their eyes and pretended that skateboarding didn't exist. Meaning we would go 5 whole years without a skateboarding game in sight. A whole console generation went by without any plywood game in sight. All hope was lost for a potential skateboarding game until 1995, where ESPN would host the first ever X Games and air it on national TV. And suddenly, everyone was gobbling up skateboarding. It didn't quite reach the levels of success that it achieved 4 years later with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, of course, but people for the first time in ages had taken notice. And one of those people was Sony.
Sony's brand new stupid piece of shit that doesn't do the goddamn thing it's fucking supposed to.
Sony was about to launch their brand new console, the PlayStation. And seeing the success that the X Games brought, they thought, this might make us some dough. To be fair, they thought that Craven would make them some dough, so they'll practically think that anything will make them cash. So Sony partnered up with ESPN, crunched to the teeth, and made ESPN Extreme Games as a launch title for the system in North America. You can tell because it isn't packaged in a CD case. Now, this game shouldn't really count as a skateboarding game, as it also features other sports you can partake in, like luge, which is just you skateboarding, but you're lying down, biking, and rollerblading. But since there's 2 skateboarding sports and the other 2 sports play the exact same, it kinda balances out, so I'm gonna kinda break my own rules here. I mean, would it really be skateboarding if you weren't breaking the rules and your spine? This game is basically just Road Rash, but for skateboarding. Despite the game's title, there's absolutely nothing here that was from the actual X Games at the time. It's just racing. Meaning that Sony probably acquired the ESPN license just to drive up potential sales, which, to be fair, isn't the stupidest financial decision they made. Hell, it doesn't even crack the top 40.
Amongst you, this demo uses LOD, which is lots of ducks.
There are in total of 5 levels in this game, like Tohu, Italy, San Francisco, Utah, and South America. Send this Tomb Raider looking ass place for some reason. They're all pretty bleh with some cool shortcuts, but otherwise structured the same way of going downhill. Since this is a mid-90s game, before and after every level, there's FMV videos of Susie Cobbler, no, I don't know who she is either, introducing each level and gives info about shortcuts, and at the end of the level she either congratulates you for your radical performance, or wishes for your death if you fail miserably. And you'll be getting the latter a lot because you can barely get 3rd place in this game. This game, like many other skateboarding games before it, has no concept of momentum or any sense of consistent speed. Sometimes you'll go really fucking fast, and other times you'll be, in the words of Susie,
Congratulations, we have a new definition for slow. You!
Especially with turning, which is basically like crawling, making it hard to dodge obstacles at fast speeds. You also have skaters that try to knock you down, but luckily you can do the same to them and get to that first position. Until they come back to life, travel at 88 miles per hour, and knock your ass down again. It just gets really infuriating, and while definitely not as bad as the horrifying Skater Die 2, leaves you with an experience that isn't very fun to play through. The game was met with a middling response from critics, but sold really well, being the highest selling Sony published game for the PlayStation, so Sony decided to commission a second game, 2 Extreme. But wait, what happened with the ESPN title? Well, let's just say that once Sony got a lot of cash from the first game, they dropped ESPN from the equation for the sequel, as the license would very soon expire, and Sony wouldn't bother renewing it. It would be expired so soon that the first game would be re-released under 1 Extreme, removing any and all content referencing ESPN, including all the Susie videos, which, good, because I don't want no bitch yelling in my ear about how slow I am. 2 Extreme released in 1996, and it's pretty much the same game as the first game, except this time, it's fast as hell. Like the greatest Sonic game ever, Sonic R. However, this leads to it having the opposite problem of the original game, where it was too slow. Here, it's way too fast, and you often get hit by a lot of shit, especially within the low draw distance. This game now has a trick system with a special meter you have to fill in order to do them. Hey, this sounds really familiar. These tricks range from grabs to kickflips to, yeah, that's pretty much it. This feature really doesn't do much, and it barely affects your standings in leaderboard anyway, so yeah. A new addition with this game is snowboarding. That's pretty much the same thing as all the other courses, and since this video is supposed to be about skateboarding, I don't know why I'm bringing it up.
Is it some kind of currency thing? You know, who knows?
This game is more or less a sequel than it is a DLC for the first game. Sony basically pulled an Overwatch move with this game, where despite having 2 in the title, it really doesn't add anything new or improve on anything from the first game. It actually does things worse than the first game, as you can't even choose what sport you want to partake in, which would begin Sony's descent of taking control away from the player like it's North Korea.
Look, there's a door just across this gap. Tier could be right there.
This game sold well again, but was met with even more middling response. So Sony gathered 989 studios and discussed what should be done for the third. Whoa! How about we make it completely 3D? Okay. And thus, after nearly 3 years for some reason, 3 Extreme dropped on April 20th, 1999. Now, to be fair, there are a few things that this game does better than the previous games. Like there being a restart option, thank god. There are now rails and ledges you can grind on, which is nice, but everything else is either the exact same as the originals or worse, especially the graphics. Now, this is the first and last game to have fully 3D graphics with its models, unlike the first 2 games where it was just sprites. So this has to be an improvement, right? The game probably looks better than ever. Holy shit, go back! Looking at the models in this game will make any child traumatized for life. They look like they were squished to death by multiple trucks after trying to do a big gap and are still sorta somewhat capable of skateboarding despite their extremely critical conditions. The game in general looks terrible, and I know what some of you might say, Adam, you fucking zoomer, you hate PS1 graphics because they don't have RTX ray tracing poor physics, you just want shiny new thing! Well, you'd be wrong, as I'm actually a fan of PS1 graphics when they're done well, and this isn't one of those. I mean, this came out in 1999, 4 years after the PlayStation had launched, and by then there were many games that showed off what it was capable of, and did the best they could with its admittedly weird hardware. Metal Gear Solid, the first 3 Tomb Raider games, Spyro, Medieval, Crash Bandicoot, Siphon Filter, and Silent Hill, just to name a few, look significantly better than this pile of shit. And Tony Hawk's Pro Skater released in the same year? I don't even need to explain this one. But, you know, graphics don't matter as long as the gameplay is good, right?
Nope.
The gameplay still shares the same problems as the previous games. Inconsistent speed, terrible turning, samey levels, and an ungodly amount of obstacles that you'll faceplant into over and over again. Despite the 3-year gap between the second game, there's still not anything worth commenting on that I haven't already commented on. Andy McDonald did mocap? Cool. 3 Extreme would get a very negative response, as people were absolutely sick of this format getting progressively worse with each game, especially since there are other way better skating games on the market. Like Top Skater. Top Skater would be released in 1997 for the arcades by Sega, and despite it being 2 years older than 3 Extreme, it's better by a wide margin. Top Skater is a simple arcade game. You insert a coin, you pick a course, you pick a character, and off you fucking go. There are 6 characters in the game in total. You have Ash, who's the basic bitch archetype, Keith, who according to the announcer is a rebel, Kenta, the youngest of the roster, Jay, who's probably the second best skater on the roster. I mean, look at those radical dance moves, man. Cookie, who is in fact not a cookie, and Jill. Please step on my balls, please. These characters do have some differences with their moves and how they jump, but they're not that different, so you'll be fine gooning over Jill. The gameplay is refreshingly fun, especially considering the atrocities I played. It controls pretty well. With the arcade cabinet, you control the game using an actual physical skateboard controller, which is similar to the all-time classic game, Tony Hawk Ride.
By pumping up the crowd.
The physics respect Isaac Newton, and there are actual skateboarding tricks you can pull off. And some of these tricks are absolutely satisfying to do with the addition of these ramps. Depending on where you are on these ramps when you're doing tricks affect the type of tricks you do. Like, you can do a boring ass flip and get an E. Or, you can do a triple front flip and get a big ass S. These high-ranking tricks are really satisfying and fun to pull off, and give the game a wacky and zany vibe without it becoming obnoxious, unlike a certain Tony Hawk game featuring the funny Jackass Man. There's two courses you can do in this game. You have the Novice course, which is a spacious and, well, easy-going place where you can skateboard without a care in the world. The Expert course, though, is the exact opposite, being pretty dense and requiring some skill to navigate, like these tunnels and stairs. I prefer the Novice course as it's more well designed and has more flow, where the Expert course just has a lot of shit that you have to oh so carefully move around in. But hey, it's still fun, especially with that announcer.
What a trip! Never knew such a trip was possible. Some great air, absolutely wild, extraordinary shots fired there.
This is the first skateboarding game to have an actual licensed soundtrack, featuring a wide and diverse array of artists like Pennywise, and Pennywise, and Pennywise, and Penny. Oh, whoa, God, not that Pennywise, this Pennywise. The soundtrack really is for everyone, isn't it? The songs themselves are okay, but it can be really repetitive as you play the game more and more, having to listen to that one funny clown. In fact, the game really doesn't seem like it was meant to be replayable, as that's all the game has to offer. Yeah, sadly when I said that this was a simple arcade game, I really fucking meant it, because this game is as deep as Mel Pegarullo's writing.
If you're here to talk me into working on Liberty Prime, you can forget it.
Do I need to remind you why you made that promise in the first place?
No, that won't be necessary. Tell Proctor Ingram to get her scribes ready. It's going to take a hell of a lot of work to get Liberty Prime back online, but we'll get it done.
This game was obviously meant to be an arcade game where, unlike 720 where it's engaging even at home, was designed to be briefly played with your probably drunk friends at an arcade, have fun with it for like 5 minutes and move on to the next cabinet. After like 30 minutes of playing, you've pretty much seen everything this game has to offer, which isn't much of a bad thing for an arcade game, but as an actual game that should hook your attention, there's not much here to really sink your teeth into. So while the gameplay itself is really solid and fun, the huge lack of content really hurts it. Something that probably would have been fixed with a home console release, but Top Skater never had a home console released. It's still to this day forever stuck on that rotting arcade cabinet that probably hasn't been touched in 20 years. But still, it's definitely a good arcade game, and it was really successful. The success of Top Skater led to Kenji Kano, the director of Top Skater, to go on and create Crazy Taxi, which was kinda successful, I guess. Now, there was actually a sequel to this game, called Air Tricks, which focused on vert skating rather than downhill skating. But that game released in 2001 when the Tony Hawk series was 3 games deep at that point, so I'm not going to cover that. But let's go back to the home console spectrum again, where we move on to the final pre-THPS game, Street Skater, published by... oh no. That's right, EA is back once again with this game, and after the absolute catastrophe that was Skater Die 2, that's not really a good indicator for things to come. But surprisingly, this game is pretty decent, if unoriginal. This game is pretty much Top Skater, just with slightly more content. You got the colorful courses, the downhill format, the characters, the tricks, which are actually even more crazier than Top Skater. Like, you'll be pulling off more 1440s here than you can do rocket ollies in real life. This time, with the characters, you can actually upgrade their individual stats as you move along the street course. Like, a year before Tony Hawk started to do that, so EA was sort of ahead of their time on some stuff. Like the level selection with 3 levels instead of Top Skater's 2. Wow! To be fair, there are these bonus stages you can do before each level, like the half-pipe stage, which is just you skating on a half-pipe, Big Air where you get judged for how big you air, and the bowl, which is just you skating in a bowl. Double wow! These are pretty fun, but they don't last for long at all and don't really offer much outside of some gameplay divergence. As for how the game controls, well, it's still kind of as stiff as a Redditor seeing a woman for the first time. Definitely not as stiff as Skate or Die. It's still playable, but it definitely doesn't control as smoothly as the games that would come after it. You still have the tightest wheels on earth with turning, grinding is still somewhat difficult to pull off without you tasting some concrete, and overall it's still a bit too heavy and limited to have active fun with before turning it off and playing better skating games. Like Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD! The courses themselves are weird, especially with Tokyo, where it looks and feels like a fever dream somebody had about Tony Hawk turning into an actual hawk, grabbing them, and dropping them off at this place, where the crowd is screaming KYS over and over again. And that's a preferable option over playing this level. It's just a fucking mess with gated half pipes for some reason, these awkward ramps, and just general weirdness all over the place. Like, I know it's Japan and all, but seriously, what the fuck is this? A golden Giga Chad? After you complete all the stages, you get the most grand and satisfying reward imaginable. Unlock secret paths that don't really add much to the level because you already completed the game by that point. Also, it's nighttime for some reason. Triple wow! Street Skater would be met with mediocre reviews, as people had grown really tired of this format of downhill levels, mediocre gameplay with little to no content, and just being, pretty bad. People wanted a true skateboarding game, something that was true to skateboarding culture, something that truly was a good skateboarding game. Well, a certain Hawk would offer a solution to that conundrum. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, with the power of Neversoft and that damn mustache, would do a 900 on our PlayStations, and the rest is pretty much history. It completely revolutionized the skateboarding genre and changed the way skateboarding games would be going forward, and killed the preceding franchises that came before it. The Extreme series would fade away completely. Street Skater had a sequel that came out a year after Pro Skater, but look at its Wikipedia article, dude. Hey, Deftones. EA would try to remake Skate or Die in 2002 with Criterion, but EA did an EA and treated them like garbage, and demanded way too much of it, causing Criterion to quit the project. Luckily for EA, they would acquire Criterion a few years later, forever trapping them in mid-for-speed purgatory. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater would usher in not only a new era for skateboarding games, but a new era for skateboarding in general, as the industry would absolutely explode coming from its success. And as it grew more and more, as more clones would come out, and as it crashed and burned, the games that came before it, well, they would be all but remembered. But despite some of the pain playing some of these, I still think they're extremely important in the context of skateboarding games and Tony Hawk, as it showed how fucking great Tony Hawk was. It's clear that in the early days of skating games, they didn't really know how to quite work this skateboarding thing out yet, and were often very confused on what the hell to do. And to be honest, other than Neversoft and EA Black Box, they still are. It took teams having the collective IQ of rocket scientists to make these geniusly designed games and engines, while devs are out here struggling to figure out how to add fraps to their games. So it's pretty interesting to see where Neversoft got its inspirations from, and how they made a 10-star dish out of it. Some of these games, man, they're awful. Really, really awful. But they're still necessary to understand how we got from here to here. What an evolution.